A is for Alcoholic is a program about recovery. My name is John, and I'm an alcoholic.
And my name is Jerry, and I'm an alcoholic.
Join us as we go through the alphabet of alcoholism, one letter at a time.
What up?
Q and A.
Q&A. Q's and A's.
Q's and A's. P's
Mind
and
your
Q's.
P's and Q's. Oh,
What is-
man, at the same time.
What does P's and Q's stand for, Jared? Do you remember?
I don't know. It was pints and quarts,
Mind-
dog.
Don't drink too much. Mind your pints and quarts.
Yeah, don't be getting wild taking off your petticoat and shit. Lowering your breeches and crashing your cider wagon into a windmill.
It's very Dutch.
Which was, man, alcoholism back in those days must have been wild. But it must have been biz as usual for them. It was like a normal day.
Well, there was also, you were just mad. You were just crazy if you couldn't
Yeah.
handle it. Like, there was no such thing. I mean, that was, yeah.
Yeah.
You were just
They're
insane.
just-
You were just in the gutter.
Imbibing too much mead on King's Day.
Well, and to think of the stuff that they made. I mean, there was no, distilling was, a relative term.
Oh, yeah. No, there was, it was just Pruno that they filtered through like a cat gut.
Ooh, it's just,
Yeah.
that's frightening to me. And I've had some bad
Yeah, I
whiskey.
know. I've literally had Pruno. I've had it with you.
That's right. We did have
We
that
had-
homemade Pruno and somebody made.
It was hipster Pruno.
Oh,
It wasn't
hipster
even real
Pruno.
Jail Pruno. Anyway.
So today on the pod, it's letter Q, and so it's our Q&A show. So I reached out to some of our listeners and some folks on Instagram and elsewhere and asked them to give us some questions. You feel
Yeah.
like answering some questions?
Yeah,
You
sure.
don't mind.
I don't mind. I love questions.
So
Let's talk.
we picked a few the best ones, and we're going to just go down the line and answer some questions for everybody. So this one comes from @KitKatSpan or KitKatsPan. Maybe it's like KitKatsPan. She says, how hard was your first sober day or your first day sober?
That's a good
Like-
question. It sucked.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard. But it depends. It also depends on what we're counting our first day sober. Was it the first day you said enough is enough? I imagine not, because I was drunk when I said enough was enough.
I was too.
I was real drunk when I said enough is enough. And then I woke up the next day and didn't drink at all that. No, that's not true. No, I woke up the next day, drank some more, but it was the worst, awful worst, like warm white wine in a plastic tumbler, like just a maintenance shame drink, But then that first day after that, to be honest with you, I was carrying the obsession really hard, but I was trying to figure out how I was going to clean up all the collateral damage I had caused. And it was so overwhelming.
Like you just thought of the collateral damage from your entire life, or
Yeah,
just from
no,
that
yeah,
weekend?
No, not from that weekend,
Okay.
from my life. Yeah, no, I wouldn't have trashed the house because I was living with my brother-in-law, and he would have beat the tar out of my ass, dude, if I would have done anything too wild in his house. But just what I had done with my family, man, I had to like sit down and it wasn't even sitting down, it was a lot of pacing. There was physical withdrawal as well. How about you? What about you, bro?
I think the first day would have been, because the night that I said I'm done and I quit, I had been drinking and I had one last beer. And how hard was that first day? That first day I was still reeling from hangover from the previous 3 or 4 5 days or however many days it was in a row that I'd been drinking, but I'd had that super hardcore bender on that Saturday night. And by bender, I mean the bottle of vodka underneath the bed.
Right.
Having to bend over to get it. That was.
Your bender was bend.
But the next
Damn.
day, I think so I had to go back to work, if I remember correctly. And I just remember having that sort of, that hollow, dry feeling of like the second day hangover where it's not completely gone, but it's not completely painful.
Yeah.
And really wanting another drink and going, and that was the only thing that kept me sober that day, was that I told myself I was only going to do it for a week. So it was like, okay,
Yeah.
I can do it for a week, man. But it was really hard. I mean, how hard? It was pretty awful that first day of going, but that wasn't the only day. That wasn't the day that I said I'm not going to drink for the rest of my life. But it was just so in my mind to make it easier, I kind of put a cap on it. But
Right.
I just
Right.
remember being hungover and then being really sad and wanting to drink and feeling all the guilt and the shame and just feeling so horrible about things that I'd done and said. So, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it was probably that first month was like that, you know. So,
Yeah, it's a great question, but it's also one of those questions like to me it feels like the immediate aftermath of like a traumatic car accident.
mm-hmm.
And then they run up and they're like, "How you doing?" Like right after like immediately after everything's happened and you're just like that just ears buzzing, ringing that saving. It's like a Saving Private Ryan shit, where the bomb falls and you can't hear anything, you just hear the
Mm-hmm.
ringing. I mean, that was going through. I was going through like the metaphorical version of
Right.
that. Those first early days, because I was just like, my body was traumatized because I was cutting off the thing that was keeping it going, and then my
Mm-hmm.
brain was all fucked up because I had been doing the thing that was keeping my body going. So yeah, it was a shit show, but it got better.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think that for me and I know for you as well, but that a lot of people, this question is kind of, it's different because a lot of people go through rehab. They get to the point where
Yeah.
they're either court ordered or family ordered or people have drugged them somewhere, and so they're doing it absolutely resisting every single thing that's happening to them. So I feel
Right.
grateful that it wasn't hard in the fact that it was my decision in the end,
Yeah.
which I think
I had a
led to
I
success.
had a it's a very successful. I had a guy at a meeting ask me, "What rehab did you go to, man?" I'd early I had like 8 months or something, 6 8 months. He's like, "What meeting or what rehab did you go to?" And I'm like, "I didn't go to any rehab. I just kind of stopped. I just fucked
Mm-hmm.
everything up so bad that I had to stop." And he was like, "Man, that's fucking gangster. You're a badass," and gave me all these props. And for like 2 weeks after that, I felt like such a superstar. I was like, "Yo, I'm a recovery superstar, dude. I did it on my own," like.
Mm-hmm.
And in hindsight, I was like, "You were just another drunk, not drinking," But I remember feeling so proud of myself at that point, and
Mm-hmm.
in reflection, being like, "You fucking dork, you dork." Yeah, recovery all star over here.
Recovery All Stars.
Yeah, where's my sash, man? I demanded a sash in my waiver.
Yeah, it's and the thing too with the rehab is that, like, I'm just grateful because when I hear people talk about how amazing rehab was for them, they were at a
Yeah.
place where they needed it. A lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so
Yeah.
thankful and so grateful that I didn't need to go to that point. That I
Mm-hmm.
had that moment where I was like, oh, okay, time to fix it up or to do
Right.
something else. I didn't even know
Your
what that
mom.
was at the time.
Your moment of clarity came in a high spot. Like not a high, well, not a high spot because it was a real shitty part of your life, but it came in.
Higher than some, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, which is good.
Yes.
Great, grateful, gratitude. All right,
Number
I think we
2.
might have parsed that one out.
This one comes from at Chris Tucker 9921, and Chris Tucker is one of our Patreon patrons, so we thank him very much for his sustaining monthly
I
contribution.
loved your work in Friday.
Yes.
Awesome. I wish you would have come back for Friday too. Why didn't you?
Rush hour.
Oh man, Rush Hour was not as good as Friday.
No,
Anyway,
it
ask
was
the
not.
question.
The question is, what step do you find the most important?
Oh, that's a great fucking
Mm-hmm.
question. Yeah, that's a really good question.
So,
How you lead?
okay,
You-
okay. I have-
thank you for leading today, John.
I've had these questions for a little bit longer than Jerry has. So when you talk about being in a 12-step program, and we're going to talk about other programs too, but so you really have to do them in order, and that's just the way that it's set up. You can't. Well, I mean, you know what? You can do whatever you want. I had to do them in order. It was suggested to me that I do them in order,
Right.
So it literally, I think the most important step for me was what we talked about in the first question, was that what they call step 0 before you even get into any kind of program or,
Boom.
ideas of recovery. So like step 0 is, this shit has got to stop. And
Yeah.
that comes in that moment of clarity, whether you're drinking or not, or at least it did for me. So I think for me, it would have to be 0. I also think that the 12-step program that I subscribe to has a large spiritual aspect. So I think that finding a way to understand that spiritual aspect is pretty vital to everything else that is a part of that program. You know? What do you think?
I like one. Can I do 2? I like 1 and 4.
You can do whatever you want. What is
But I mean, to explain to the person who isn't, because we have a lot of listeners who maybe do not have problems with alcohol, are not familiar with the program. We're not here to advertise the program that we're in. We are not at all representatives of the program we're in. We're probably some of the worst representatives of that program. But just to kind of roughly say, 1 is admitted that I was powerless over alcohol and my life had become unmanageable, which is one of my favorites, and I apply that every day to not just alcohol, but the other things that I do. Like I love the sense of powerlessness. To me, gives me power. People would always tell me, "Oh, well, I don't agree with AA," or I don't agree with the program you're in because of that powerlessness shit." And I'm like, that's fucking bullshit, because you are powerless over everything in your life, and you have no idea. You have no idea. The idea of giving up control is one of my favorites. And then the number 4 is the moral inventory. Taking inventory of what you do. I try to do those every day, little ones, because that reflection on your actions teaches you a lot about what your motivations are. And so for me, that's really important to learn what motivates, the depth of actually what motivates me, and not just like, yo, I want cookies, or do you know what I'm saying? Or like, yo, I want to play Fallout 4 all day long, or I'm angry because of this, but to figure out the layer underneath that as to what my motivations are, and then I can work on that to become, to try to become a better person. But 1 and 4,
I think,
1 and 4.
Yeah, I think with the powerlessness, when you think about it in terms of like what we think of, that what we're dependent on, whether it be electricity, think about the last time the internet went out, or
Bam,
your
got no
power
power.
goes out. You are powerless.
Literally have no power.
So
Yes.
how long is the food gonna last in the fridge? And so to admit that these things, and you go, okay, well, I require something I require electricity. I am powerless without it, that kind of thing. So I mean, I think of that as more of like, when you admit that, you're just kind of cracking the door open a little bit, and that's what this
A little bit.
And number 4 is just, you got to clean your desk, right? Just to know what work you have to do. It's an inbox outbox sort of situation, and if you look at it objectively, you've got to get the work done, right?
Right.
You got to punch in, punch out.
Yeah. And I'm a nervous cleaner, man. I got to keep cleaning, so why not apply it to my life, just, and I'd also like to say before we move on, but I am not a great example of working these steps sometimes either. I mean, I have to like really throw that caveat out there, or disclaimer out there, because I can sit here on this podcast and be like, yeah, I'm really working it, and then I go out in my life and I'm like a dick to everybody. You know what I mean? So like, it's a constant work in progress. It's always those. That's why I love that structure of the steps, because you're a constant work in progress. You never really figure it out, never really all the way. You just figure it out enough to make life tolerable and then enjoyable.
Well, you're human beings, so you're going to be susceptible to these things that every single human being is. So we do our best.
Unfortunately,
we do our best to be kind and to have empathy, and we are very easily prone to selfishness and self-centeredness and all that. So
yeah.
All right, we are going to go to question number 3 from @I am Audio Angel, and she asks, how do you make it through hard times when you want a drink, or how do you make it through a hard time when you want a drink?
You're like, oh, I hang out with my girlfriend because she's so great.
So I would say when I have a hard time, when I'm frustrated, when I'm angry, when I'm sad, um, so I know now, 3 years on, I know now that if something is upsetting me, that the drink that I want is not the problem, or it's certainly not the solution. So it's just, for me, it's more of like it's like a little, my radar goes off and says something is wrong, something is up. You need to sit down and figure it out. When you talk about taking that moral inventory, it's in the moment. You talk about taking it in that second, whether you're, in a argument with somebody, whether you are feeling sad and you're like, man, I just want to get fucked up today. I
Yeah.
just, you know what? Fuck everybody.
Yeah.
Fuck everything. I just want to be drunk and be by myself. And I have to go, okay. And I have those thoughts on occasion, not so much anymore. But I
Mm-hmm.
have to think, well, what is that? What is the thing? What is the underlying problem? What is being attacked? Is it my self-esteem? Is it my security? Is it what? What is being attacked, and why is it being attacked? And why do how do I go about understanding it so that I can repair that thing?
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
What about you? Do you do you ever?
Well, my coping mechanisms have gotten a lot better. So now when I am in a stressful situation and I have to cope with it, I usually walk. I like that. I'm talking about the physical aspect. I always have this tendency to want to run for my life. So I'll leave. I'll leave the
Mhm.
house. If I'm in it, I'll just pace around. I'll call someone. I usually call you.
Mhm.
Or I'll call. I have a couple other people I can call. But the way I framed it in my head was that this thing that I used that previously used to be about release and relief is now about, now to use it would actually exacerbate the problem. So it would no longer be release and relief. It would be like confinement and anxiety. And that's all I would be adding to any problem, anything I have, that I've dealt with so far. I can't predict what's going to happen in the future or any of my reactions there, but I feel like in my mind I had to mentally switch it so that alcohol was no longer a solution but just a greater cause. You know what I mean? A greater
Mhm.
cause of the problem, or a greater symptom to the problem. So for me personally, I really distance myself from things. And I like your advice a lot too, where you sit down and you actually think, what is the core of this that's making me react in this way? That's a great way, because even if you're fucking furious, if you can just get away without breaking anybody's head open or like downing a fucking fifth of Evan Williams or whatever, and sit down and think about what it is that twings plucks that string that infuriates you or causes you such distress, then from there you can actually start to do, I imagine, start to do a little work on like what it is that does that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and don't drink.
And don't drink. I mean, that's it. That's the best advice. There's whatever it is that's bothering you, just you take a moment, pause, stop, halt. That's what it is. Halt.
Yeah, find someone to talk to.
Yeah.
Ask for help.
Call
It ain't
somebody.
hard. It's hard. It's hard to ask for help, but
Mhm.
once you just open yourself up to it, it makes it a lot easier, man.
You get to ask for help in this
Yeah.
situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Next comes from at Jess070127. And how do you fight cravings, Jerry? Do you get cravings anymore? Did
Not
you
really.
when you did?
I did.
How did you fight cravings for alcohol?
Fucking sugar, dude. It's so funny, man. Sugar. I bring up the story all the time about talking to an old timer on the phone. He's like, get some Jolly Ranchers. And I'm like, you've lost your mind. That ain't going to work. And then there I was, like a week into my sobriety, like eating fucking Snickers bars and Monster Energy drinks because it made me feel different. So, like, the caffeine and sugar, they weren't the complete solution, but they were helpful. That's how I fought cravings. And now the cravings aren't the same. They're not the same. It's more of a mental than a physical.
Yeah.
Remember physically feeling the craving? Like when you smoke cigarettes and you
Yes.
feel it in your body. It was like hot electricity, man. I hated it. It was itchy.
Mm-hmm.
But nah, man, sugar, pie,
Yeah, sugar, pie, coffee. Lots
Yeah.
of coffee. I don't drink as much coffee anymore, but in early sobriety, like we're talking a month, 2, 3 months, I didn't care. I just said, well, at least I'm not drinking. And honestly, that was great.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
my particular issues around sugar this day over the last, now that it's been over 3 years, those are different, and those are things that I need to, deal with probably in the same way. I think another, like you were talking about cigarettes,
Yeah.
and I quit smoking like almost 3 years ago this month. So one of the things that cigarettes was like, Alan Carr is a great guy who he talks about quitting smoking, and he talks a lot
Mm-hmm.
about cravings. And so when you realize what a craving is, it's kind of the synapses in your brain. And again, I'm not a neuroscientist. I don't know
Not
exactly
yet.
what I'm talking about. Not yet.
Not yet.
I'm still waiting for the diploma in the mail.
Yeah.
But you've got two synapses that live really close together, and they go, give us a cigarette, give us a cigarette, give us a cigarette. And if you give them a cigarette, then they come together and they go, oh yeah. But the cigarette
Yeah.
never really quenched anything. It just made made you feel different. So all the
Yes.
anxiety, all the health deficit, all the health issues, and so then when those little two synapses would be apart and they'd say, give us a cigarette and give us a cigarette, and you say no, they get a little bit further apart.
Mm-hmm.
And then they do it again, but it's softer and it's quieter, and then they get further
Yeah.
apart and further apart and further apart. And that's with anything. So you're basically, and I think with alcohol and with food, for me, and the way that I understand gut bacteria, whether or not I have the whether or not I'm doing it or not, is whatever you feed, they grow more, right? It just makes sense. So if you starve the thing that wants the alcohol in your body early on, then it's not going to want it anymore.
Wow, that's deep.
Right?
Wow, are you talking about your actual physical bacteria in your gut?
In
or
your
are you
gut,
talking about
yeah, your gut.
Are you using it as a metaphor?
No, your guts.
Oh.
So there's this shit. So like when you eat poorly, those bacteria, they grow more and more and more, and they get hungry and hungry, and they say, "Give me another
Oh,
cheeseburger."
yeah.
But
Wow, yeah,
if you quit eating cheeseburgers, they have nothing else to live on, or whatever it is. So if it's cheeseburgers, pie,
Right,
cigarettes,
right,
or
right.
I just use the cigarettes as a metaphor, or alcohol.
Oh, it works great.
So
I,
go use sugar if that's what it takes for you to not drink early on, and worry about the issues of the sugar later.
Right.
I think it's completely acceptable to have Jolly Ranchers and pie.
yeah, hell yeah. I was gonna say too. Here's the other thing too. I've met other people who are trying to achieve sobriety and go through recovery, and they'll quit it all. They'll quit, like as far as like drinking and smoking, and they'll quit smoking right when they quit drinking. And I always think of it like, dude, don't quit smoking. Like keep fucking smoking, one thing at a time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you gotta one thing at a time. So I was gonna say, and this is awful advice, but I don't care, whatever. Maybe smoking will help you with the cravings too. It helped me. I smoked a lot when I first got sober. It's not really anything that you can maintain over any period of time and live a healthy lifestyle, but the nicotine helped me. Now for me to tell a newly sober person who doesn't smoke to start smoking, it's just
No.
funny. I'm trying to be funny.
Right.
I'm just like, yeah, quit smoking. It's hilarious. But don't. It's totally shit. It's awful for you. It's just as bad as fucking drinking, except, you don't fuck you do fuck everybody else up. But I guess my point is that nicotine was really helpful to me too. And the idea of quitting both at the same time was too big of an incline to climb.
That's that's the same advice I've gotten from mentors and other people.
Yeah.
Is
Don't quit both.
Don't quit
the
both.
drinking.
It's fine.
And then when you got the drinking kind of handled, mostly handled, start vaping or Chantix or whatever, patches or gum like Mark Maron does or
Yeah.
whatever.
I mean the gum. Yeah, whatever it takes. So
Yeah, but that's a whole other podcast, man.
Chantix and Tantrics.
Yeah, the Chantix hour, the Chantix sex with John.
So we will move on to number 5. This is from @SoberJulia instead. Are there any alternative programs other than AA? There are plenty. And you
Yeah.
can go through, you can Google these if you want. I'm just going to give you a quick little overview of a few of them. There is one that's, let's see, there's SMART, which is, what is it? Sobriety something. It's basically SMART is a, what is it? Moderation
know.
management is one. So there's the one that's moderation management. SMART stands for Smart Management and Recovery Training, focuses on empowering the individual to sustain recovery. there's another one, and I'm reading these off online. This
Yeah.
Life Ring is this secular group provides a healthy network of peers focused on remaining abstinent from drugs and alcohol. There's one called Women for Sobriety, an abstinent-based, obviously, program is made up of women supporting each other in recovery. And I think it's important to say, too, that, you know, men and women have very different, especially in alcoholism, have very different experiences. They can be,
yeah.
you know.
Oh, yeah.
So it's really important in those that they have those separations like that. There's one called SOS, which is a secular organization for sobriety.
Nice.
This nonprofit network is made up of secular recovery-based groups. Moderation Management, that was the MM. This program is not based on abstinence, but instead on learning how to moderate and control problem drinking behaviors.
Whoa, really?
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard of that. Yeah, I don't.
Well,
whatever. Yeah, that's one of them. Definitely. I don't know.
So
I can't apply what works for me to other people.
no. I think there are so many different ways, and
Yeah.
when I think about something like moderation management, I don't think even right now today I wouldn't want moderation. I never did.
Nah,
I
me
never
neither.
did before. I was never interested in drinking "quote unquote" normally. I was never interested in being able to have a smart cocktail before dinner and enjoy a nice glass of, you know.
A crisp Gewürztraminer.
Exactly.
I don't even know what that means, but yeah,
So
that one.
for me, it was always, and as far as secular, if I may express my opinion,
I
think
mean, it's your podcast, man.
I think that there is a huge and terrifying thing when you use the word God. And so there's always this backlash of like, well, I don't believe in God and I'm not religious, and so I can't really do the spiritual thing that you're talking about. And if you can't, you can't, right? So don't.
Yeah.
I just know for me that spiritual part of it was something that I was sorely lacking, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading. Have you read Recovery by Russell Brand?
No, I started listening to it while I was painting, and I liked it, but then I don't know, I forgot that I was listening to it and stopped.
And then Dan Carlin had a new history podcast. And
No, it was more like Stephen King had a new audiobook out, and I was like, man, I want to hear about this anyway.
Well, so Russell Brand says something, and it's interesting his thoughts on God. You know, just because I hear a lot of secular stuff, and I think that it's important that you do whatever works for you. But he says, well, then don't call it God. You call it the source. It's the source of all power, all things, all energy, all being. And he was talking about prayer, and he said he called prayer. He said, if you don't like the word prayer, that's fine. He said, instead use didactic inner code reset. And so basically just an instructive inner code reset, because that's all we're doing, was we're just trying to reset our brains to think in a different way. However you get there and whatever you have to do to get there, I'm totally all for it, man. And if you're into moderation management, more power to you.
I just made a thumbs up. Yeah,
I can hang out with
you.
you.
Figured that out. Yo, hit me up, because if you've really figured it out, like, I might be interested.
Right.
Probably not though. No.
I don't. Yeah, and that's the thing is like.
But I feel like you would be
seriously.
uncomfortable. Like I would be uncomfortable the entire time trying to moderate, because the little fucking drunken werewolf in me would be like, "What are you doing, dog? Like we're supposed to, we're supposed to do all of this, not some of this.
And
we're
you-
supposed to drink all of this."
And then
Jerry.
your brain would be like, "Well, am I moderating enough? Do I moderate too much?
Oh,
am I
yeah, it
allowed one
just
more?
feels
How
like-
much? How many is too many?"
And this is just us personally. Like,
Yes.
if you're out there in the world doing it, like, fuck yeah, my hat's off to you, because that is gangster as fuck. That is tough. That's tough. And the secular aspect of recovery is interesting. I didn't realize I was missing any spiritual aspect, but it was important in the early days of my recovery to make sure that I was like, I'm an atheist, by the way, and I still have an atheistic type of thinking. I'd say it's more agnostic, or maybe it's just non-Christian. I don't know. You know what's funny? You remind me of the secular thing and the word God freaking people out. And we have a friend who is, went into recovery,
Mm-hmm.
and I was talking to him about our thing that we do, and I was telling him, don't worry about the God thing, don't let that freak you out, don't run for the hills, because I was trying to be soft about. I didn't want to just be like, God, and throw it in his fucking face, like
Yes.
God. And then he had spoken to you, and he's like, dude, I don't know why Jerry was doing that. He was being like hella weird about the God aspect. And after you told me, I realized that this guy fucking went to Catholic school from kindergarten all the way till he graduated high school, and I was like, oh, he's so familiar with the God thing, it doesn't even
It's not
bug
gonna
him.
phase him. Yeah.
He actually probably believes in
Yeah.
God,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, whereas like when I first went in the meetings, my big excuse to not be at the meeting was God. That was my biggest, it's all about Jesus and shit, that's why I'm not going to a meeting, and then
Mm-hmm.
then shit got hairy, and I was like, all right, okay, maybe I'll listen to these fucking
Mm-hmm.
crazy people.
Yeah. And then you find out you're one of them.
Oh, Jesus.
Mm-hmm. And
Yes,
so,
he had just said his name. Hallelujah, brother.
So I don't know what this person's motivation was for asking this question.
Well, it's good that we talk about
yeah.
these things because, I feel like people feel like that's their only option, and there's so many options. Just as long as you're not drinking, that's the big thing. And you're not in hell. You're not in hell
Yes.
sober.
Don't
be in sober hell, because that's even worse than drunk hell, because you don't even get to drink. That's the thing. You got to learn how to not be in hell.
Not be in hell, regardless of how you are managing or not managing yourself. And if it's manageable, it's manageable. And
So,
if you can moderate it, awesome.
I love that question, though. It's a good question. I didn't do any research for the question whatsoever.
That's okay. That's all right.
But it is good to let people know that there's something other than, than AA. There's other things in that work, that do work. You just got to find
and
them.
if there's one of my... I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I wasn't saying it, was trailing off.
Perfect timing. One of my favorite non-12-step recovering sober alcoholics is a guy that you know, and his name is Mishka Shabuli, and he plays punk rock music all over the country. He tours. He does lectures at Harvard. He completely, I don't know if he renounces it, but he pretty much renounces 12-step programs. He's like, I don't need it. I do my own thing. That's it. And I think that's super awesome. And I love reading his articles. He's written some articles either for The Fix, like recovery magazines online. He might have done some stuff for like the New Yorker. But it's just interesting. And I usually, when I'm reading online articles, I tend to not finish them, but I finish.
Same here. Yeah.
So I check out Mishka Shabuli. He does there's a great Rich Roll podcast with him in it too. So there's another guy who doesn't do it at all and is continuing to stay sober, doing fine.
There's a few of them. I mean, there's a few really well-known people, even actors who just work a different type of deal.
You work a different kind of program, right? I mean, everybody, you said this early on, everybody works a program. You have a program in you. You have a set of habits and things that you do every single day, whether it's a good one or a bad one. So you can pick your own. It's up to you. All right. Next question. This is from @personalbest_everyday. So he says, how am I going to meet girls without drinking at a bar or behind a bar? So
so you hide in a dark corner and you jump out and yell, "Hi!" You yell, "God!" You jump out, and yell, "God!"
I believe in God.
Oh man.
I was a bartender for many years, and so obviously, he said behind the bar. It was not. I don't know. I think people have this idea about bartenders scoring chicks and having like some sort of rock star life, and it was not like that for me.
Throwing it out
just
there.
Throwing out there. No,
John was just throwing it out there.
It was never like that for me. It was never like that for me because, well, one, I was there until 3 or 4 in the morning, and then I had to drink until like 6 or 7, sometimes 8.
Correct.
And then sleep it off.
Even if this person wanted to come home with you, you're like, well, you're gonna wait here till 6 in the morning because
I got stuff to do.
I got stuff to do. I mean, by 6, you're gonna be completely asleep. But how do you get girls? This is a hard question for me to answer. Finish your story, though.
I think, I think the best way I can answer this, because I can't tell you to, I don't, I'm this, it's not a dating podcast, and I can't tell you to go to the grocery store or go to church or, you know,
Mm-hmm.
go to the UPS store or whatever. I don't know. But I think that working a, if you're working a program that works for you, if you're in the right places and you're doing the right things, then the right people will be attracted to you.
Word.
I mean, that's the best way I can put it without, I don't really know either, man. I mean,
Right.
online,
Right.
I can't recommend, I hear all the horror stories about dating apps and stuff like that, but
Right. You don't have to be lonely at wearerecoveringalcoholics.com. You know what I'm saying?
mm-hmm,
Like, my opinion on it is that if you are in early recovery, don't date anybody. Don't even
mm-hmm,
look for girls. Don't even be around girls. You got to take care of you. You got to take care of you because the minute you get the chaos of a relationship, or even the highs and lows of a
mm-hmm.
relationship, or even that like that dopamine hit of like doing shit with people, that might derail you. But then once you feel like you're more stable and steady at that point, I think that idea of, oh, I have to drink to talk to people, it starts to go away after a while because you do stabilize and steady out and you're like, holy shit, I've done all this other stuff without getting fucked up that I used to have to do fucked up. Maybe I
Yes.
can do this thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'd suggest. I got sober with a wife. My wife couldn't stand me when I got sober, so it's almost like I had to redate her again. But I was also dating someone that couldn't stand me, so I was like, "How are we gonna work this one out?" But
Can I ask, how was there anything in particular that you did work it out with, or?
I just didn't drink, and then it started, going to meetings and shit, and eventually, like, I got less and less crazy.
Hmm.
I think once the immediacy of me not being fucking crazy started to wear off, we started to get along because
Okay.
even it wasn't like no switch is flipped. You're not all of a sudden sane and
No.
no, your shit does not get together for quite some. My shit is still not
Mm-hmm.
together, but. I think, I don't know. I mean, we'd have to have her on and ask her, and she'd probably laugh and be like, "Man, I still don't like this fucking guy." But I would think, for me personally, my opinion is don't date anybody early on. They
No.
always say in the rooms they say wait a year, but I just say wait till you get your shit together a little better before you go out there looking for girls.
Yeah.
Man, we have the internet nowadays. You don't need to be trolling for one night stands. Like you have the internet, dude.
Mm-hmm.
It's right
Just to
there.
handle your own business, take care of yourself, get your own house in order, do what needs
Find
to
a
do.
new favorite song,
Mm-hmm. It's
Yeah,
true. It's
just
true.
and then you can worry about ladies. I'm sorry, women. God, it's
Mm-hmm.
such a sexist saying chicks. I
Hey,
was gonna say
you know,
chickadees.
it's it's a
Hey,
messy.
chickadees.
Recovery is a messy deal. You're right. It's not a
It
switch. It's
is.
like cleaning out the cat box, man.
It takes a minute, man. It takes a minute. So if you're looking for another person out there, yeah, give it a minute. In my opinion,
I think that's good advice. Okay,
moderation.
and this one comes from at Mojo Mant, or Mojo M Ant, and it just says they just sent the word temptation. So, to talk on the subject of temptation, I would say that I don't feel temptations in the same way that I did.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know when's the last time you ever like sat at a bar top or anything like that, or you have no real reason to
No, I
necessarily.
mean I went to that birthday party the other day and they were drinking Bloody Marys and I was tempted to drink a Bloody Mary, but I wanted a virgin one.
Mm-hmm.
Like I thought the alcohol would fuck up the tomato because I was like, man, I really want some tomato juice. Like, but that's what I had identified it with because there was a fleeting moment there where I felt like my ass start tingling. Like, oh, geez, am I really having a liquor craving now? Like, damn it, brain. And then I realized it was actually more the salt and the clamato and the Worcestershire, like all of that together.
Mm-hmm.
That was what it was. But I don't know who was in the Temptations. Was that
It was more
Smokey Robinson or was
maybe
that?
Smokey Robinson and the Temptations. I was more of an OJ's fan, but
Yeah, no, I liked with the coasters or the,
the
dude who did.
Drifters,
Why the hell can't I remember his name? Easy like Sunday morning.
Lionel
Wasn't that
Richie
the
and the
Temptations?
Commodores.
Commodores. I love that in the name. We're the Commodores.
Yeah.
But yeah, Temptation is just the same as craving.
Mm-hmm.
No, actually, Temptation's not because temptation is that the idea that something is so alluring that you would put aside all of your, you know what I mean? Like all of your
recovery.
well-gotten recovery to be to this alluring thing. I don't like the word temptation, to be honest with you. Like alcohol is like this siren out in the sea who's like, come to me and fuck all your life up. I'm like, no.
No,
Ew.
just put cotton in your ears, man, and don't listen to the siren song. I
Ew.
I was out to lunch with a friend who drinks, and we popped into a place, and I think the only place there, the first place to sit was at the bar, and I don't, even being a bartender, I just don't do it anymore. But I was like, that's fine,
Right.
I have no problem. I have, my business here is to, eat a sandwich and then we're gonna go. And I remember like looking up at all the pretty bottles, and they're all shiny and pretty, and I knew a lot of them, some of them more intimately than others,
Oh
and
yeah.
looking up, and it was just like, for that moment, there's this little moment of like remembering sort of the romantic, oh man, I could totally just, wouldn't it be great if I could just have a drink in the afternoon and, just enjoy myself like a normal person. And then
Yeah.
my friend had ordered like a whiskey or something, and I got a whiff of it, and I was like, ooh, that's why I don't sit at the bar. And it was just
Yeah.
kind of a mess, and it was kind of gross, because bars kind of are sometimes.
Yeah, they
And,
smell like puke.
and I was
They
just
smell
like,
just like barf.
I was like, yeah, man. And so the veneer was very quickly lifted in that
Yeah.
moment, So I don't have too many temptations like that anymore.
No.
And again, that was just a fleeting that weird little daydream, that little back of my head daydream.
But I mean, I have those about like kicking a dog off a roof. So I don't know. You know what I mean? Like it's intrusive thoughts. I mean,
And then they're gone.
now alcohol has become part of the intrusive thought, where I'm like, let's throw this baby. Like, why would I throw that stranger's baby?
No.
Yeah, and then the brain's like, who knows? And runs off.
Like a ghost.
Yeah,
Like an
it is
evil
a
ghost.
Oh
Yeah.
man, it's got a voice and everything. Believe me. Yeah.
So, yes, that's the thing I think about temptation. I think, too, what I did in early recovery, especially, I just knew I didn't put myself anywhere I didn't feel safe or comfortable or secure. So
Yeah.
if somebody
Yeah,
was
that's
going to
important.
meet me somewhere, or if I had to go out to lunch with somebody, I made sure that I sat at a table and not at the bar. I made sure that maybe we go and get coffee in the morning instead of, having a club soda at night with somebody,
Right.
So just making sure that you plan those moments so that temptation is not even there if you don't feel strong enough to withstand it or handle your business.
Word. Handle your business.
Handle your business. This one comes from at virtue Vivian.
Oh, Vitruvian.
Vitruvian plague. Yes.
Yeah.
How has recovery changed how you view your friendships and relationships?
It's like dead air there for a minute. I'm like, that's a great question. As a matter of fact, he sent me that question, and I have had time to think about it, and now I forgot. How has it changed my relationships and friendships? I am not friends. That's bullshit. I am still friends, but I do not talk to 3/4 of the people I used to hang out with and talk to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. There's nothing really that ties us together anymore. I still love those people and I care about them. I misspoke when I said I'm not friends, but they're just some people that we just have nothing. There's nothing there. It's gone.
I wish.
As far as my drinking friends, it's like dust in the wind. Like, goodbye, good luck. I love you.
It was all good and fine.
Have fun out there. We had a blast, but it's time for me to Elvita saying goodnight. I gotta go. And my relationship has gotten better. My wife and I communicate much better. My daughter and I are homies. I don't know if you're gonna cut that whole part out where I just screamed at her so bad I popped a vocal cord.
No,
I didn't. But like, we all get along really well. I mean, I honestly think about these nightmare scenarios between my wife and I that when I was drinking I would think of, and they would fill me with such dread. This idea of she's going to cheat on you. These insecure things, that intrusive
your
thinking.
insecurity manifesting itself in these nightmare scenarios.
I think of them now and I feel like I think I can manage that. Like, I think I can get through that. I think, whereas before I'd be like, fucking jump off a bridge. Like that's the only way I'm going to drink a fucking handle and jump off a bridge. So I feel like my friendships have become more genuine with the people I am friends with. They've had more depth and richness to them, and my relationship has definitely improved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would say the same thing, that there are people that I drank with that I just don't talk to anymore, and not that there's any ill will whatsoever. I just don't, somebody asked me like, "Hey, have you heard from so and so or whatever?" And I was like, "Yeah, you know what? I haven't heard from them in a while." And they're very much, they like to go out and drink and imbibe and enjoy, and I don't think there's anything wrong with them or with it, but it's just not like necessarily chatting with them. Then there's friendships with people who I used to talk to quite frequently on the phone, and be very, very drunk. And I just, little by little, slowly, these people just stopped calling me because either A, I wouldn't be available at 2 o'clock in the morning, or
Right. You wouldn't
B,
answer.
I wouldn't answer, or B, if it was 10 o'clock at night, I was only available for like half an hour until they
Right.
started, repeating themselves the third or fourth time. I'm like, I gotta go. We're
Yeah.
done here. And so I have all the love in the world for those people, but I just don't have the time for them.
Right.
So,
It's like a different time. The time is partitioned out,
Mhm.
portioned out differently.
yeah, I have more important. I just have more important places to be and people to be with, and not any ill will toward them. But and I mean, we do this
Right.
thing every single week. I've said it before. I wouldn't be doing this right now with you drunk.
No.
Even when
No.
the year that you were sober and I was drunk, we didn't talk that much. And
No.
usually,
I would listen to you for a little while, and then I'd be like, I gotta go to bed,
you're
John.
like, man, I'm dealing with some shit over here, and you're fucking babbling my ear off, and it's late.
It's late, and I'm just standing in the garage. It's cold.
So,
Because I was smoking. I was smoking cigarettes back then too,
Mm.
so I had to stand in the garage. And now here we are on a podcast.
so I've never heard anybody say to me, "I quit
magic.
drinking and my relationships got worse."
Right.
I've never heard that.
Well, your
Mm-hmm.
relationships with other drunks got worse because they probably are afraid they're gonna catch the sober from you, like it's fucking.
Like it's the flu.
flu.
Yes.
Yeah, but I mean,
I think
You know.
I think there's a certain level of like filtering about who your friends are, and it's complicated, man, because it's not like you go, well, I don't drink anymore, so I'm better than everybody else, and
right?
you know,
Sayonara, bros.
because
Yeah.
there's still people I care about and people who I know that drink very, very heavily that I don't talk to, that I wish I could reach out to and do every once in a while. But I certainly, you
Yeah.
can't go around telling all your drunk friends that it's time for them to quit drinking.
No, that's not your place.
It's
nor
not
your
your place,
business.
so.
No, I am not the drunk police. I'm the drunk avoider. Just leave me alone.
And yeah, so I think that everything has gotten better in my life. Absolutely everything. In my relationship, I, met my girlfriend after I'd quit drinking. So that was an absolute blessing that we were able to find each other and do this, and she doesn't drink. So it's an outstanding thing.
I think it's great that you're with a person who doesn't know you as a drunk. You know what I'm saying? Like, doesn't know knows you because you tell them stories.
Sure.
And then this person is like, I can't believe you were ever like that. And I'm like, in the background, like, yeah, he was. Yeah, he was. I saw it.
Yeah.
I helped.
I helped
a lot.
So it's, and we were talking about
Yeah.
that the other night, and I was telling her about getting kicked out of some show before, like the Killers' first show in Seattle, and how I got thrown out the back door because I was drinking whiskey with some dude in the stall. And
Oh, yeah.
and
yeah.
that, like, I got all my friends together to go see this show, and she's like, "You got kicked out? You didn't even like get to see the show?" And I was like, "Nope, man. I was there before the Killers were big, man." And anyhow, that's a whole nother. But so I think that everything has gotten a lot better since every single relationship that I've had, whether it be with somebody drunk or somebody still drinking or somebody sober, has been 1,000 times better.
Yeah. We care more now.
Yes.
We care more. We do. We literally do. We care more about. We care more. Yeah.
So this one is the other one that you sent me from Schwab Lama. It says, "Yeah, homie, when we gonna hit a meeting together?" So
Don't worry about it. We'll hit a meeting soon. All right. I'm just a little flaky sometimes.
So
I got a lot going on in my life. Not much, but I got some stuff. I have a thing that I have to do once a week that really takes up my entire week. Well, I'm gonna hit you up though. You stay strong out there, dog. I
So-
hope you're listening to this.
So I think this is now I brought this up as a joke, but I think it brings up an interesting point that that you have experienced much more than I have, where you being in recovery and somebody who feels like they should be or wants to be, or so you say, yeah, I don't drink anymore, and they're like, yeah, man, I'm trying to cut back too, and yeah, we should really go to a meeting, and you say, okay, well, meet me over here at this time, or I'll pick you up, and they inevitably have some excuse or can't make it, or my kid's sick, or my dog's kid's sick, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing really to be done. So I guess what I would say is that I imagine you can't really resent that person or feel bad.
No, not at all. No. I understand where they're coming from. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I totally get it. The worst thing that anyone could have, even at my worst, the worst thing you could have told me is, we'll just quit drinking.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you go down to those meetings they have in church basements and drink that shit coffee? Be like, fuck you, dog. I'm gonna keep drinking.
Mm-hmm.
That shit is it's very scary. It's very scary. It's scary, and it's kind of sad, and it's all the negative things. It's frustrating and scary and sad, and you got to say goodbye to this thing that you've been in love with and that you've been using and has been using you for like as long as you've known, and you got to say bye to it now and sit with all these sad people in this basement.
Mm-hmm.
And then after a while, you realize those people are happy as hell.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are crazy as hell. I mean, it runs the gauntlet. It's a fucking
Right.
spice rack of fucking loonies in there, but it is literally a spice rack of crazy people. But some of them are doing really good, and I think I understand it. I totally understand it. It's not even. I'm not even coming from like this asshole superior place where I'm like, I get it. Like I feel it. Like in my heart, I'm like, I feel that shit. Like that fear. And if it's not fear, maybe you got too much going on, then I get that too. I got like I said, I got this one podcast I do a week, and it takes up a lot of my time,
It's but yeah, it's just that there's a lot
This
of
is a joke
No,
because I do nothing. I just show up and just
come
say
on,
stuff.
Jerry. That's not true.
I mean, I react. I like the kids react to,
Is that
whatever.
what?
Yeah, like grandparents react to "This Is America" by fucking Childish Gambino. That's me.
I haven't seen that one yet. You have to send me that link.
I will.
But yeah,
I
it's
get
there's a
it,
lot of
man.
fear and a lot of about going to meetings, especially when you don't know what's going on the other side, man. And I was there for sure.
Yeah.
it took a hell of a lot.
It's crazy, dude. You go in that room and they're talking to you about not drinking anymore and God and how bad it got, and then they all start laughing about how bad it got. Like it's the funniest fucking thing
And you're
in
in
the
the
world.
thick
and you're
of
like,
it.
This fucking cult is crazy. These people are cult members. And then you realize, that it is kind of funny that you are in the shit. That this guy who tells you, whatever is like totally right. He's your fucking road dog. You don't even know it. He's like riding with you. You're like, damn. Yeah. It's great, but it's scary. So I get it, and I don't mind. And if those people, any of those people who have hit me up in the past, who have kind of, you know what I mean, like not followed through, or just even tentatively reached out to me, like you're always welcome to reach out to me again. You're always, even if you never want to reach out to me again, you always say hi to me. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna ever judge you for that shit. Like
No.
I fucking get it.
I was there.
get it. Yeah, I was totally there. So if I see you out in the street, we're homies. I'm gonna hug you. I hate touching people too, but I'll still hug you.
Thank you for listening to A is for Alcoholic. Our music is by Neglect. You can find more of his music at neglectsound.bandcamp.com. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and contact us at aisforalcoholic@gmail.com.